Unbelievable news! The ground has shifted horizontally and then down from the magnitude 4.7 earthquake. A supervolcano in Naples, Italy has never done this before since the crisis began in 2005. Like this. Guys, we need to talk about this. This is how it sounds when Italians are angry. So listen for just a second and then I'll tell you what he's saying.
Stai esagerando, facci rientrare nelle nostre case, maledetto!
So, after the strong earthquake that happened there, magnitude 4.7, the damages, the landslides, crazy images, boulders on cars, people are angry. And you read it all over the comments and they feel like we're being left alone. We're not being told everything. People are evacuated from their homes. Homes are inspected and deemed unlivable. People say, where are we supposed to go? Why is nobody doing anything? The scientists are saying, many scientists are saying, oh, I'm saying this as my position, not official position with the INGV. That's the basically Italian USGS that monitors that dangerous supervolcano in Naples in Italy 24/7. They're saying, I'm speaking on my own behalf. You should evacuate the red zone at least. People should not go and live there. Shouldn't have done for a long, long time. You have to prepare for the worst. You have to expect an eruption, maybe most likely a phreatic eruption, but you have to prepare for everything. Then they're saying the evacuations are not working. And now we do have that magnitude 4.7 did something to the ground. It moved the ground like never before. So how much more needs to happen, guys? I'll tell you in this video. So guys, that magnitude 4.7 that just happened in Naples, Italy, Campi Flegrei, did not just shake Pozzuoli, where we have the Solfatara crater with all these fumaroles, the most likely spot for a potential eruption. It has displaced part of the caldera. So listen to this, guys. I'm not talking about that land rise that the volcano has been producing since 2005, like the ground inflation because of the volcano. No, I'm talking about a shift. We've seen a shift after the megathrust earthquake 8.8 last year in Kamchatka, Russia, that has moved the peninsula. This has now happened at Campi Flegrei supervolcano, Naples, Italy. Sideways and downwards, guys. This is how intense that was. And it also did not stop that long-term uplift that I just mentioned. Meanwhile, nearly 3,500 people are now displaced or receiving assistance. Infrastructure is still affected almost 3 weeks later after this earthquakes, and residents are furious that this crisis has been building for years and nothing is happening. So the really interesting deformation data that I want to give you, because we have the new bulletin that is out, just fresh, the August 18th INGV bulletin is now listed officially. And there's an important detail. During the magnitude 4.7 that happened on July 31st, and the swarm, the earthquakes, crazy amount of earthquakes around this magnitude, many above magnitude 3. So GNSS instruments in the central caldera have recorded an actual, this is called co-seismic displacement, guys, a co-seismic displacement across several stations that they have there. This is one of the most, if not the most monitored volcanoes on Earth. The ground shifted horizontally by roughly 1 centimeter, 0.4 inches towards the southwest. And at that one station, you've seen it often, I report about this, the right station, Rione Terra, essentially that is the reference station that is located right in Pozzuoli, that town that gets hit the hardest. The horizontal displacement approached 3 centimeters, 1.2 inches towards the southwest. So what we call that shizzy hitting the fizzy, well, this is no indication that this thing is about to blow at any time. But guys, This is right on top of the volcano. This is right there where the scientists say, if Shizzy hits the fizzy, this is the location. There was also a sudden vertical drop. We just talked about the horizontal displacement. So horizontal and vertical. Where is a vertical drop coming from? Roughly 1 to 2 centimeters. So in this range, 0.4 to 0.8 inches associated with this earthquake. So again, guys, this is volcanic. We're not talking about magnitude 4.7 in California where everyone, I know you Californians, you're tough. You're really tough, right? You're like, yeah, I slept through that one. I know, but this is a supervolcano. If this is underneath your bed, you run, especially in Pozzuoli or Naples, where the homes are built of old masonry buildings, where the structural engineers say the homes basically only lean against each other, the grout between the bricks, it's gone. It will be catastrophic if we see only a magnitude 5 earthquake. It'll be catastrophic. So that, you don't even need an eruption, but if the earthquake happens before the eruption, evacuation is not possible. Just many are saying that right now. They're saying forget about it. After the damages we're seeing with the 4.7, just forget it, right? But let's talk about that vertical drop. That is interesting because immediately after the earthquake, there was speculation that perhaps this big shock had released enough stress or pressure to cause that inflation, that land rise, to reverse. But of course it did not. You know, this is not the first magnitude 4+ earthquake. We've had lots so far. And it never reversed it. In many cases, it even accelerated it after the earthquake. So why would you think that? No, the volcano is not releasing pressure and the crisis is dying down. This is a volcanic crisis. So the most important takeaway from that new assessment is that, of course, the INGV says they have not detected significant change in the overall deformation pattern following the 4.7. The long-term uplift is continuing. So doesn't that sound great? I always find this so interesting. So don't worry, you know, we haven't detected any unusual deformation pattern, just the unusual, okay, my dog's, Eddie! Just the unusual and dangerous long-term uplift is continuing. So everything is normal, right? The volcano is increasing its escalation, so to speak. Everything's normal, nothing to see here. The normal danger continues, basically, right? So really, you have to be careful how you read that. So the ground dropped during the earthquake, but the ground is still rising. That's the situation that we're dealing with here, guys. And this is very essential for what we need to talk about in this video. So since early February 2026, the central part of Campi Flegrei has continued to rise at approximately 1 centimeter per month. That's roughly 0.4 inches per month. That has accumulated to roughly 30 centimeters, 11.8 inches uplift since January 2025, so since this year, and about 1.67.5 centimeters, that's the height of a smaller person, 5.5 feet since November 2005, since that crisis began. These are the data of the latest monthly summary. So the sequence is basically years of uplift. Magnitude 4.7 breaks through on July 31st. Part of the central caldera suddenly jumps sideways and simultaneously drops vertical. And then the underlying long-term deformation continues instead of reversing. It is not reversing. And this is the science story that I want to emphasize right now. And there's another important point. INGV still has Campi Flegrei on yellow alert. They're not changing the alert level, although they already changed the number of alert levels so that they don't have to go to a higher one so quickly. So now we're at dark yellow instead of yellow. We have another one, dark yellow, instead of like going to orange. And then we have light orange and dark orange instead of going shizzy, sitting the fizzy. So of course they're not saying the eruption is imminent. So geochemical system nevertheless remains in long-term running state of heating up and pressurization and releasing more volcanic gases. So, and now you can actually see what deformation means in real life. This is more than just showing you another uplift graph. The deformation is no longer this abstract line that you see on the monthly bulletins in this INGV chart. Local News has interviewed Roberto Castelluccio, seismic risk consultant to Pozzuoli. He says the water network, gas, electrical infrastructure, and railway, everything has been affected by deformation during this ongoing bradyseismic, I call it volcanic crisis. The magnitude 4.7 then has caused additional damage to the aqueduct with numerous leaks, while railway infrastructure was also deformed and the tunnels. And the port of Pozzuoli may be the perfect visual example. The July 31st quake has produced cracking, settlement, and damage around the port. The port, parts of it are already dry. The ferry can't really load anymore because the water levels are lower because the land is rising underneath. So heavy vehicles remain restricted because of unsafe buildings, access routes there. And as of today, the restriction is still in place. Authorities are temporarily moving some ferry operations away from Pozzuoli towards Naples. So the longer term uplift itself creates another problem, right? It has changed already the height relationship between the quay, the ferry decks, the loading ramps, and it can ultimately and already has reduced effective water depth around parts of the Pozzuoli harbor. And so the land, I want to make that clear, the land is moving enough so that engineers, railways, water pipes, and even the way ferries use the harbor have to adapt to this land rise. But the human situation is much bigger than it was immediately after the magnitude 4.7. It has changed enormously since the first days. So immediately after the earthquake, the number being reported was 300 displaced people, 3,488 people being assisted, hopefully assisted, after the earthquake. Effectively, around 3,500 people affected by displacement arrangements. Pozzuoli has issued 367 evacuation orders affecting 1,391 households because it's like multi-story, multi-condo buildings. So the anger in Pozzuoli is real right now, and it's very strong. I can tell you that if you read the local comments. Residents have already occupied and blocked the port of Pozzuoli. Hundreds initially marched. Reports from the broader demonstration put participation at around 1,000 people or more. People were protesting not only housing, but lack of water, electricity, slow building inspections, and what they see as years of delayed mitigation work. So one displaced resident has told that authorities had been talking for 2 years while funds for making buildings safer remained blocked. Another complained that the autonomous accommodation payment could not come close to paying their current rents. Do you want to move somewhere else? Probably the most emotionally useful line comes from a woman that lives near the Solfatara, which is, she can see the steam, right? She says, siamo persone civili e siamo esperati. So that means we are ordinary civil people and we are exhausted. And I believe it. This is constantly shaking, not just earthquakes. Every shaking you think, is this thing going to blow? Another resident described repairing a home damaged during the earlier crisis, and then only to have another magnitude 4.7 to reopen the cracks and make the building partially unusable again. So this isn't an earthquake followed by reconstruction and then normality. This is an ongoing crisis since 2005, and the earthquake magnitudes are going up. Everything's going up. Anger has now reached the political level. The mayor of Pozzuoli gave a very angry interview about the response. His core complaint is that authorities have announced enormous sums for Campi Flegrei, but residents don't see enough actual construction taking place. He argues that some measures were effectively based on conditions before July 31st, meaning the newest damage and displacement weren't adequately captured. He also highlights something that you can connect directly to the science: unstable cliffs, damaged private buildings, and the impossibility for many families to finance repeated seismic strengthening by themselves. So his point is basically, you cannot tell hundreds of thousands of people they must live with this volcanic crisis unless the buildings and infrastructure are actually adapted to live with it. But still, guys, over there, this is a volcanic crisis. There could be an eruption. Your own local scientists are warning about that. This is the thing. Just don't put your head in the sand. It's like only the earthquakes. Nope, it's not. I will keep you updated about this, guys. I hope you found this interesting. If you want to know more about this, watch this video, because they have done a scientific study and they're predicting something for the year 2032. A rapid escalation of this supervolcano, maybe earlier. And that's not far away. You have to watch this, guys. I can't explain it in a few minutes, so check it out. I'll see you there. Stay safe. Bye-bye.